and I'd like to present a lecture about global trends for megacities, some insights and views from big data analysis. I hope that you are searching for a new agenda and new insights, and please comment and ask tricky questions. I'll try to answer them a bit later at the end of the lecture. So we'll start from understanding why do we need to identify and look through global trends and its prism. Here I'd like to present you a few very interesting statements of very profound companies or interesting corporations about the future, which were completely wrong. And we'll start from Mercedes-Benz and their forecast about the number of cars. As you can see, they projected around 5,000 cars because of a lack of available chauffeurs and drivers. And now everybody's thinking about driverless cars, and you could even find it in your city or megacity. Another interesting information about ICT and computers were produced by Thomas Watson, chairman of IBM, just around 60 years ago. He thought that the world market for computers will be about 5, not 5,000, not 5 million, but just 5 computers. Albert Einstein said that there is no identification that nuclear energy could be really used by different directions that we can see now. And the last but not the least, you can take a look at a few sentences produced by Bill Gates about memory and spam problem. Why do we need to look at this slide? When you think about a megacity, when you think about the global trends, you should understand why and how could you use this knowledge to formulate your future, to understand what peculiarities of markets, technologies, and skills will be in demand. So let me share with you a few funny pictures before we start switching to some academic slides. This picture was drawn more than 100 years ago, and you can imagine how different futurologists, forecasters, foresighters imagine the future of megacity. More than 100 years ago. You can see that everybody is flying on a flying machines. They have aero caps, but still there are a few people, if you can see them on the road, going with their dogs and trying to read printed newspapers. So that's how they thought that the megacity will look like. Another picture from our current view, a view from this year. You can see, if you compare them, the same drawbacks and the same mistakes. Well, a few people are just walking around the streets, not flying cars, but maybe some spaceships are flying, and lots of buildings. Why do we need to take a look at these pictures? I'd like to share with you a first message of our seminar, of our lecture, that just trying to predict the future, trying to forecast the future, sitting at your TV or near your iPads or notebooks, without understanding deep knowledge of global trends, could be useless. Just take a look. What's happening in a minute? That's a picture comparing 2017 and 2018. Just 1 minute about expanding YouTube, Facebook, Google, Netflix, or other internet internet companies. We can say that our current position is very, very changeable and turbulent. So if such experienced futurologists, if such highly educated persons failed to predict the future of their cities, of their lives, and of their companies, how we, sitting here, how we could predict the future of our megacity? I'll share with you a few ideas about this. So, the first step is understanding what external challenges we face when we speak about megacity or moving to Megacity 2.0. We change the priorities. What should we support? Should we support ecology or society, ethical questions or modernization, or both, or everything? But we don't have time, money, and our skills to just to support the whole nature. So we have to select. But what should be the system of criteria to select different fields to support in constructing a conception of megacity? How could we concentrate such resources? Should we support one research institution or one team or one university, or should we support everybody with some system of criteria? How could we provide a sustainability for such finance or for such efforts? Should they go from the government, or should they go from the companies, or from everybody, from society, like crowdsourcing or endorsing house innovations? What could be the institutional framework of our megacity? How should we deal with IPRs, intellectual property rights, transparency, business climate, and agile ecosystems? What about mobility and substitution of resources? How could we provide mobility in the megacity? And the last but not the least is a smart governance. Should the government go through hard or soft models? So these are just a few but very important challenges that Megacity point should be taken on. What are the expectations of decision makers? What are the expectations of citizens of a megacity? What could be the expectations of you in current you in the future, if we take into account global trends and changing the megacity conception? First of all, everybody needs a proof, evidence-based analysis and transparency of the analytics that you provide. We see how what-if question is moving to very, very crucial for each scenario model. I strongly recommend you to take into account weak signals of emerging disruptive trends and understand how better intelligence and big data analytics could help us. And I'll show you in a few minutes later results from our intelligent foresight analytics system, iFORA. What can we present to citizens of Megacity? Then you should understand how to detail the data and go for some prioritization and integrate all decisions into smart policy and smart understandings. What do we have? What are the possibilities for exploring a conception of megacity using a foresight? We see how multidisciplinary and multicultural research is moving from outside to indoor and core of research of megacity. We have to combine and integrate quantitative and quality methods. For sure, we have to use the big data analytics, but my first question to everybody who is keen to big data, what it is? Do you know what big data is? And how can we use it? We have to engage stakeholders, everybody who is responsible and who could influence a competitiveness of Megacity. And for sure, we have to construct networking and provide communication. So once again, if we decide, using our previous slides, that we cannot just forecast the future of a megacity from now to 2040, 2050, or 2020, we have to go into detailed understanding of global trends that constitute the idea of megacity. And the first step is understanding external challenges, expectations of decision makers in society, and possibilities from the research side. So now, I'd like to tell you a few words. We'll have a special webinar of Foresight, but I'd like to tell you now a few words about the Foresight. I don't know, do you understand and have you ever heard what Foresight is? But generally, Foresight is a systemic methodology that uses data about global trends, your capabilities, to foresee, to construct, and to formulate the future. Not to predict it, not to try just to say, right, this is my forecast and it's true, but to formulate the future, to form the future, engaging all stakeholders of the future. Companies, government, society, universities, science, regional authorities, experts, everybody who is an important player of this future. Foresight results should be disseminated to all stakeholders of the future of Megacity. And generally, Foresight goes into 5 phases. You do pre-Foresight when you set a task, then you recruit team and understand what methods do you need. Then you go for generation of results. Then you act and go for renewal. This 5 element, this 5th element, is very, very important, but very hard to go for a whole foresight of a megacity. So, why do we need a foresight to better understanding the future of a megacity? We need this foresight to understand what's changing, what are the global challenges, and what grant responses can we provide. We need a foresight to meet a new economic paradigm, economic of trust, sharing economy, other types of economics. We need a foresight to deal with a very rapid changing society. You can see it in the streets, you can see the metro tube everywhere in the university, how the society is changing. You face a change in demand for new skills and changing the research agenda to multidisciplinary and multicultural, which is very important. Nevertheless, when you're living, you'll face a competition between globalization and localization concept. To face all these challenges, a megacity should go through global challenges and global trends using a foresight on board. A foresight, once again, is a methodology, an instrument, a systemic methodology that helps you to form the future, understanding the global challenges, your capacities, and engaging all of the stakeholders. And I'd like to present a few results from our foresight studies that I hope will be interesting and useful for you. So, first of all, when we deal with global challenges, when we try to identify crucial trends, we use so-called STPV conception or STPV view. This acronym, which includes social, technological, economic, environment, policy, and values in all trends. You see how different social trends are changing our economical paradigm, how technologies are moving different countries from one position to another, how ethics, including changing in our values are getting more and more influential to companies' competitiveness, and how environmental trends become a core of our life. So once again, my message is that to deal with global trends, I recommend you using STPV analysis and try to take a look at 6 different types of trends, including social, environmental, values, technological, political, and economic. The tricky thing is that you can find different trends in analytical reports, in newspapers, websites, blogs, but it's very hard try to the understanding of the whole complexity of the global trends. So I'd like to tell you that lots of global corporations like a global consultancy or global universities are trying for several years to deal with global trends analysis. Please take a look at this slide. What can you see? Brains, chips, digital, computing, robots. These all are components of a megacity, but we've been listening to it for more than 10 years. The question is, are we sure that these global trends are still on board, still up to date? Or it's just a beginning of a story? Please think about this. Are you sure that those global challenges or trends that you're keen on, that you listen from different gurus, are really the whole systemic picture of a megacity? If you think yes, if your answer is yes, so listen at the end of the lecture. Maybe your opinion will change. I'd like to present a few results from a real big data analysis of intelligent Foresight Analytics. And we asked our iFORA, okay iFORA, please draw us a few semantic maps and landscapes of a global trends for megacity. This iFORA system includes different research articles, patents, job vacancies, analytical reports, legal documents that deal with different global trends, including megacity. So let's take a look. What do we have using this iFORA? It looks like a picture of a good drawer that you can find in Louvre or maybe in other galleries, but generally this is a whole picture of a global trends and global challenges that megacity could face in the nearest future. Let's take a look. The first group deals with science and technology. There are different technologies, including biotechnologies, new medicine, personalized medicine, new materials, new energy, smart grids that could influence a megacity development dramatically. We can see how converging of Internet of Things theory, of new robotics and new technological revolution are changing essentials of economic development. And for sure, a megacity is in the core of such transition. Another group of trends, and I think that personally for you this is very important, deals with ecology and ecological trends. A few minutes later I'll show you this picture for climate change, but I can tell you that our treatment to the nature and ecology is very important for our future. And including a megacity conception, it should be green, ethical, and ecological friendly. These are very, very important messages. So if we take a look into economy, what is in the global trends now? A very interesting conception which deals with Megacity, is a sharing economy. Well, indeed, you can share everything. You can share your car, you can share your food, you can ever share your blood if you're a donor. You can share your money if we speak about crowdsourcing. The only thing is, why do you need this sharing economy? How could it reduce costs for a megacity, and what windows of opportunities this sharing economy could create? Please think about this. Another group of trends deals with values, and this is very important. Our values constitute our economy in the megacity conception. What can you name? What are the three precise values for you? What is valuable for you? Ethics, your future, your influence, your education, your friends, your own life, your money, your business, your startups, your dog or cat. What is in a value? Or maybe a good feeling. And this is very important from a megacity conception, because a megacity should create an ecosystem for this. A megacity conception includes everything from this global trends agenda, and it should provide a framework, a system for realizing your dreams. Demography. Demography is very important. If you read all of the reports, you can find that our population is growing. It's growing very rapidly, but what is happening with us? We're getting older and older. Aging population and silver economy. Please take a look at this global trends. It's very, very important understanding. In Japan, for example, they moved to society 5.0 conception. Can you imagine? 5.0. And one of the realistic aim, I hope it's realistic, of this conception is 120 years old person for everybody. So they are moving to such a lifelong period, and this is very, very beautiful idea. And Megacity could provide an infrastructure for such persons, for silver economy. So that's why it's very important. How can we treat and how can we use big data analysis? So if you could send a picture on the slides on your computers, so each point is a cluster of trends, and I could name more than 200 different global trends here, which are very important for a megacity conception, but I clustered them in different categories for you to understand the whole conception. Now, let's take a look at some picture which is closer to us about the climate change. What constitutes? So once again, it's just a one small cluster in this picture, climate change. But here it's in a big picture for you. What is inside the climate change? Of course, the climate change model and climate change scenario. If you remember our previous slides, when I'm telling you that we have to foresee a demand for such studies, then modeling scenarios is really in demand for all research in megacities. You can see that carbon emission is a very important topic in climate change scenario. But we can see also other trends like agriculture, new agriculture, like urban agriculture, trends which are very, very close to industry 4.0 conception, and for sure new type of energy systems. So these are the global trends for just one mega trend, climate change, which for sure very much influences the conception and the idea of a megacity. Another very important trend is Internet of Things. I think everybody is interested in it and know it. Let's take a look from a big data analytics. What can we see? So the bigger point is, the more influential, the more sufficient it is. And the bigger the link is, the more citations about different clusters you can see. So the first big thing is Internet of Things inside, in the core, and smart city conception. So we need to install an Internet of Things for better and smarter functioning at city, to make it really smart. Another 2 points deal with big data as it is and future of internet. You can see other different and interesting trends like the fourth revolution in energy, which is connected with Internet of Things, open data, different type of computing like ambitious computing, and other kind of stuff. Do you think it's the final picture? Do you think that our system of big data analysis completed drawing a semantic map for global trends of Megacity for Internet of Things on this slide? No. Let's take a look at this picture. You can see two other very important clusters that link the topic of Internet of Things with, on your left in green, cybersecurity, bitcoins, blockchains, Ethereum, and other internet and cryptology topics, and in red on your right, aggregated reality and virtual reality, including Google Glass. So just take a look. Once again, Internet of Things is linked not only with smart city or just things with computing, but with new type of blockchains, new type of money as it is, a new type of reality, like Google Glass or augmented reality. I think it's a very interesting position. Let's take a look at the final picture. Here it is. So what global trends sufficient for a megacity could be extracted from big data analysis at just one topic: Internet of Things, smart city, artificial intelligence, computer vision, machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, wearable technologies, and cryptocurrency. Just one topic, Internet of Things, integrated into big data analysis, reveals so many interesting opportunities or threats. It's up to you. It's up to you to decide. Is it a threat for you, or is it a window of opportunity? For me, it's a very interesting conception how inside a megacity you can install different global trends analytics. So let's take a look at another case. It's a case from Russia, from natural resources and understanding how to deal with challenges and threats. So as you already see here, and as you already seen in the picture, in the previous pictures, climate change, we could face a few challenges. So here, it's just a very small piece of such big picture. Climate change, spread of new environmental pollutions, say from nanotechnologies, increasing death rates and diseases in sites caused by air pollution, and growing number of inhabitants under water stress and water shortage. These topics, unfortunately, are really challenging for megacity, and you can face how big data analytics could help you to better understand all these technologies. They could be a window of opportunity if you could provide a scientific answer for it. For example, for conducting complex extrapolation of Arctic, and you see how Arctic topic is raising in demand in the policymakers. You could create supercomputer technologies to provide a better understanding of essentials of climate change, but for sure you could face a few threats like growing of production consumption of waste, environment conditions and their negative effects, etc. So once again, what I'd like to show you, I'd like to show you how a full picture of global trends could be detailed into very, very specific story, which could be a story of your success, if you could learn how to deal with this. All right. Another topic which we explore in the Foresight exercises, and we take a look at this, is a topic about weak signals and wild cards. While some of the authors are calling them black swans, but in academic literature we prefer naming it as a wild card. What is a wild card? Wild card is some issue or accident with a very, very low level of probability, but a very high impact. For example, you could tell that new technologies with very high level of efficiency could just push out a lot of jobs. Maybe even the job of a lecturer, but not the job of a futurologist, I hope. According to a final report by World Economic Forum, which was made last year, around 75 million of professions of jobs will be lost in a couple of years. But later they told everybody that around 133 million jobs will be created due to robotization and artificial intelligence. So it's you to decide on what part will you be on what stage. Another wild card is a wild card which is very important with the conception of Megacity, is a wild card about the privacy. Are you sure about your privacy? What do you think about this? Could you just forget about your privacy if we need a technological progress, or we are not ready to give such experiment for everybody? All right. So when we talk about the global trends, it's very important not to forget about weak signals and wild cards, which could be opposite to such global trends, and they could disrupt them dramatically. Right? So getting closer to our session and our lecture, what is important? What I'd like to tell you at the end of our webinar about global trends in the megacities. So message number one, please, don't try to predict the future from the past using just simple instruments and not evidence-based methods. Okay, you can do it, but you will raise the probability to be on my slides for my next presentations, like you see other colleagues of such futurologists and forecasters in the beginning of my lecture. Idea number two, use a TPV analysis to structure different global trends when you do your research or when you're just interested about this topic. Message number three, when you use a big data analysis, try to go from the big picture and big landscape, as I show you, to detailed information with global trends, global challenges, opportunities, and threats. This is very important. And don't forget about the weak signals and wildcards. All right? Then, when you use the Foresight methods, we'll have a special webinars about these methods. When you have a Foresight methods, it's very important to use a complex quality and quantitative methods, including expert methods, modeling, and big data analysis. When you use an expert methods, it's very important to understand who the expert is, what are the criteria for choosing this specific expert, and how to deal with him or her. But it's also very important to understand the role of the expert methods in the whole Foresight exercise. When you deal with big data analysis, it's very important to understand what constitutes this big data and what task do you want to achieve and what goal do you want to get in a final stage. All right? And the last but not the least, if we move to a conception of a Megacity 2.0, which is formulated by a global trends, there are 5 basic assumptions in 3 tricky questions that I'd like to share with you. Number 1, we move to a new production paradigm, and we see how all routines are changed for artificial intelligence and robotics. So try not to be a routine. Try to be on the creative part of this side. We see, number 2, we see the transformation of global value chains, and including it, try to understand how Megacity could be a part of this global value chain, and where is the value? It's on the end and the beginning of this global chain. We see the movement to action economy. It's not enough just to know. Knowledge economy, it's a good conception, good idea, but it's not enough. You should be ready to move. And this is very important. You should be a system integrator of this megacity in the future. For sure, number 4, there are lots of challenges in environment and structure, but we see how new factors like ethics, ecology, environment as itself, and values are coming to a very, very sufficient level. And the last but not the least, if you think that you could just listen once my webinar or get a diploma and live for all your life without any extension of knowledge, it's not true. You have to be ready to learn within all your life. This is your future and mine. Just be ready to this. And be ready to answer 3 very important and tricky questions. Question number 1. Almost all technological portfolios are already completed. You know them. And I'm telling for more than half an hour about this. So the question is, who could implement this first? I hope that you who are listening to this webinar. The second question is why, but not how. This is a question about your philosophy. Are you a technocratic approach, or do you think that you are a social or humanistic approach? But anyway, you should answer this question, why? And a megacity should provide an ecosystem for answering all these questions. And the last, but not the least, is a question about who. Do we see the competition between some geeks and routines? Can just one person change the whole life of a megacity? My question is, are you ready for this future? And your answer we'll see in completing the tests. Thank you.